Yeah. Okay, so
Okay.
you are officially woke. That is what wokeness is about.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Ben Shapiro giving a lecture at Iowa State University. And after the speech, I guess it was a Q&A segment, and a young man got up to the mic and tried to convince Ben that he is woke. Not that the young man himself is woke. He was not trying to prove himself. He was trying to convince Ben Shapiro that Ben Shapiro is woke. Instead of what Ben Shapiro says, which is this wokeness, this woke culture is really hurting America. Now, before I go really further into it, we're going to just jump right in the clip. And of course, I'll place this clip in the description box if you want to see it in full without my commentary. But I'm going to stop it at key points to give my particular 2 cents. So let's go ahead and roll the film.
Before I ask my question, so do you come from Holocaust survivors, or are you a Jewish family that didn't?
So one thing I want to say right away is that when I get into debates or any kind of environment like this, when they're asking me questions, I already start to feel the setup. I was like, okay, what are you asking me these questions for? I wouldn't necessarily ask that, but in my mind, I'm thinking there's going to be a setup here. So let's see where he's going with this question about, does he come from Holocaust survivors?
So my great-great-grandparents arrived here. A lot of our extended family was killed in the Holocaust, but our immediate
Your
family
great-great-grandparents, but not your grandparents.
Right.
Oh, do you have friends whose grandparents were Holocaust survivors or anything like that?
Of course, many of them. Yeah, I've helped write memoirs of Holocaust
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their families are kind of messed up, right? Like my family is very messed up.
I mean, if you go through a trauma like the Holocaust, I would imagine
they teach that trauma between generations. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, trauma very often in a lot of circumstances is passed down. I mean, I know some kids of Holocaust survivors who turned out fantastic and some who didn't. I mean, that's
Yeah. Okay, so you are officially woke. That is what wokeness is about. It's like, people's grandparents or their great-grandparents were slaves.
I felt that coming. I knew it was coming. I knew he was going to say the whole thing about slavery and, oh, well, if your great-great-grandparents or your grandma, all of them, they were sharecropping Mississippi and that trauma was passed down to you, then you're going to be out here thugging and drugging and carrying on, which is complete nonsense because just quickly before we get back to the video, the homicide rate, the violent crime rate in the black community has risen since civil rights, 1960, which was closer to the end of slavery than now. So if there was trauma passed down, wouldn't the trauma be fresher, therefore much more destructive in earlier years rather than later years? Wouldn't that make sense? Maybe I'm wrong, but let's continue.
That's okay. No, it's okay.
I'm talking.
Guys, I actually want to hear. I want to hear.
No, this
it's
guy,
okay. It's okay. I want to hear. Let's at least hear the argument. Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Go.
What? He wants to hear me.
I do want to hear it. It's fine. Let him go. Let's hear it.
Come on.
So explain how that's woke.
So, I mean, the whole thing is like, let's see. So during
You kind of fishing there, sir. Let's go ahead and get down to what you want to say.
Calvin Coolidge's administration, do you know about like the Great Mississippi Flood back in the 1930s?
I understand that American history is filled with racial evil.
Yeah. And that causes some intergenerational trauma, which affects people's ability to be,
so let me
effective, things like that.
Fine. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So if the idea is that history has consequences, of course that's true. That's not wokeness.
Yeah.
That is not wokeness. What wokeness suggests is that fundamental institutions in American society
it doesn't.
Yes, it 100%.
See, now, like, I saw this part of the clip. I didn't see the beginning for the context. I saw this part of the clip. The young man kept interrupting him, but it's like, if I'm giving you a definition, if I'm telling you what it is, you can't interrupt me halfway through the definition and say, oh, that's not it. And really, to be perfectly honest, there's no set definition of what wokeness actually is. I think it's just a matter of who's using it the most and how it originated. That's the definition. If you ask me the definition of wokeness, I would say it's these big brain leftists that talk about all these social issues and ills. They talk about slavery, Jim Crow, white supremacy, all this, that, and the third. And they think that they're the authority on it. And if you have an explanation for, let's say, black on black crime or whatever, you have an explanation that goes against what they think, then you're the dumb one, you're the asleep one, and they're the woke ones. They're the authority. They get to put on the big crown on their head, talking about king of the black people, king of the Jewish people, or whatever, because they're woke. They're the ones that have really ascended while you're asleep. But really the term is used in kind of an ironic way because usually they're the sleep ones, they're the sheep, pointing at you as if you are the same as them. But let's keep on going.
I ran Elizabeth Warren's campaign. I helped organize her volunteers around here.
Fancy.
I am a representative of wokeness.
Okay, well,
and that's just, this is all it is.
Well,
when I went to go get my first tattoo, the guy had lightning bolts and 88s tattooed on his neck. And as a Jewish person, that's really messed up.
I got another question. Going back to my earlier video. So you're Jewish, and the tattoo artist you went to had the bolts and the 88 on his neck. Did you still get a tattoo from him? When you went to get your first tattoo, so by context of your sentence structure, you got the tattoo, didn't you? So it must not have been that bad, but let's keep on going.
So
it's basically a threat.
There are racist people who exist. The argument that you're making, and I'm going to close with this because this is going in weird directions, and I don't really want to.
No, it's not.
I don't really want to. Just hold up a second. I let you get out your arguments, and now it's time for me to respond because I let you say the full argument.
Okay, I'll let you respond, but
no, not but. Now's my turn.
You are not characterizing what I'm saying accurately.
Now it's my turn. Your definition is inaccurate. The reason your definition is inaccurate is because any sentient human being would acknowledge that history has consequences.
Right.
But if the idea is, but that's not what wokeism is. Wokeism is a different thing. Wokeism suggests that all inequalities of today are attributable to not only historic injustices, but also continuing injustices in the now. And that all disparity is attributable to discrimination.
Like that, but a conservative. A conservative is the only person. I want to know why. Why is it that conservatives are the only people who define it like that?
Typically, you don't see leftist people even talk about being woke. That's something that we talk about as it relates to them, typically. Because when I started saying woke a few years ago, that's how it was used. I never really turned on MS-13 DNC and heard them talking about wokeness, ever. Maybe I'm missing their just riveting programming. Maybe I'm missing the fantastic Rachel Maddow or Brian Stelter. Maybe I'm missing these fantastic shows where they talk about wokeness for an hour and 45 minutes. I don't know. But I think it's mostly us that use that term.
Why are conservatives the only people?
Okay, so we're gonna have to stop here because this is going nowhere. But
what's up?
I'm gonna have to stop with this with you because this is going nowhere. All I'm going to say is this. To sum up,
I just am trying to understand your perspective. Just one more second.
On a fundamental level, you're shifting definitions to avoid the consequences of your own argument. And if the idea is and final point.
See that right there. See, he's trying to flip the conservative words on their head and use them as weapons. Free speech does not mean you get to talk me to death for as long as you want to. If I'm talking to you and I say I don't want to talk to you no more, and you still talking at me, that's called harassment. Leave me alone. And this is a Q&A segment where you have other people that might want to come up to the mic, so you got a limited time. It's just like if I'm doing my live show, right? And I got a caller that's been on for a little bit too long, and I say, all right, thank you for the call. Let's move on to the next one. And you refuse to do it, I'm gonna just bang up the line. That's not censoring you. It's just we have a format here, and you got to follow the rules that we set. Okay, so that's just not what that is.
Point. If you're going to hold on, if you are also, just final point to sum up there.
Got him out of there.
Final point to sum.
I can follow that.
Yeah, one more. I just want to make I want to make one final point to sum up there. If the idea is that traumas of the past invariably bleed down into the present, that does not explain why certain groups that have been historically not only marginalized but slaughtered in mass genocide are some of the most successful groups in our society. So if the idea...
The Jews, exactly. Somebody going to say, oh, reparations, ABL, man, please. All these different groups, Japanese, blacks, Jewish people, everybody get their money, reparations or whatever. We didn't get all types of stuff. Affirmative action, EBT, WIC, TANF, you name it. I mean, it's been so much stuff. And like at a certain point, you got to be able to do something with it. You got to be able to do something with it, man. That's just the long and short of that.
If the idea is that past trauma always equals current inequality, or that my actions in, say, robbing a convenience store are attributable to bad actions that happened in Alabama in 1930, the answer to that is no. Don't rob the convenience store. The only way they are going to be able to break the chain of history is to make good decisions. What people on the left don't like to talk about is actual solutions. What they like to do is bitch about problems that existed 60 years ago and blame those for failures to solve them now.
Very good. Shout out to my man Ben Shapiro for tearing down the house at Iowa State University. That was good. I enjoyed that. That was a very good segment. I like that. Shout out to Ben Shapiro. Shout out to the young man for coming up there though. You know, I don't want to just completely dump on him and hate on him. He has bravery to go up there and try to challenge him and speak in front of a large crowd like that. So shout out to him too. I disagree with what the young man said, but I'm not really sure how everybody else thinks, and I think I'm gonna leave that right there for now. And what say you? What do you think about what the young man said? Do you think he was correct, incorrect, a little bit of both? Whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. I think that this is a person that was trying to redefine words, trying to come up with that new speak from Orwell 1984, trying to do that, trying to make words mean different things. Trying to turn wokeness into a good thing rather than a term we use against them. Trying to talk about free speech in a way to where if somebody is, you know, you got a time limit, you can't be on stage forever. If you're being taken off and you can't just say whatever you want to say for as long as you want to say it, then you're violating free speech. That's not what that means. It means I heard your argument. You're over talking me. Thank you. But next person. And as you saw in the footage, it was a guy right there, right where he was standing. So it was probably a line of people, as is the case in most Q&As. You can't just be on stage talking forever. But that's what they do, though. They try to change words and make them mean different things other than what they actually mean. He was not able to do that successfully. And I applaud the effort, but it didn't really work out too well. You know, so close, but no cigar. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.